The landscape of talent acquisition is evolving rapidly, driven by advancements in technology and the changing expectation of job seekers. We have 7 fabulous speakers to discuss in detail, leveraging tech to create a diverse talent pipeline. I am delighted to have Sunaina Mattu Khanna, Chief People Officer and Transformation, Bajaj Capital; Mukta Nakra, Head HR and Sustainability, Marks and Spencer; Kapil Dawar, Talent Acquisition Leader, IBM; Kriti Gatt, Country HR, HPE; Salil Panse, Regional Talent Acquisition Leader, South Asia, Middle East and Africa, Mondelez International; Praveen Purohit, Deputy Group CHRO, Vedanta Resources; Alpana Datta, Partner, EY, to moderate the session. Thank you once again. Audience, please note that we will have open Q&A forum at the end. Please feel free to post your questions in the Enquire Now tab. I would request our moderator, Ms. Alpana, to take this up now.
And the topic that we are discussing today, which is around leveraging tech to create a diverse pipeline, I think it has some really powerful words, right? So tech is a very powerful word in itself, and there is so much that is being discussed about the impact of tech on everything in business, including people function. And the other very powerful word in this is talent, because talent is really the currency with which the organization truly runs. And in the last couple of years, we have seen how talent can really make or break an organization's ability to continue even when the most dire circumstances or unprecedented circumstances come. So if I was to just sort of step back and look at what is happening across organizations, we see a lot of work happening around some form or the other of transformation, right? It could be a functional transformation, an organizational transformation, it could be a digital transformation. So there's a lot happening in this space. And we see some themes coming out very, very critically. The first and foremost is the need for digital adoption, where it is not just about people who are techies, but for everybody to understand what is really available for me from a digital perspective to utilize and to improve my processes with. The other thing is about people experience, right? How do I give a consumer grade experience to everybody, whether it is my current employee, it is my prospective employee, it is my vendors, suppliers, whoever, right? The third thing is skills. How do I make sure that we have the right skills and capabilities to be able to keep our organization at the tip of this competitive world? And the fourth very important factor that we need to think about is risk, ethics, trust, diversity, equity, inclusion. So if I was to look at it primarily from a risk and an ESG perspective. So clearly a lot has been happening. Now, if we were to just boil that down to saying that it is extremely important for all of us to play a role in leveraging tech to create a diverse talent pipeline.
I think for me, for my business, some of the priorities are very, very clear. Number one, in fact, currently we stand at a kind of revenue of $30 billion. We have a clear-cut target in front of us that we want to move from $30 billion to $100 billion. And for that to happen, there are a variety of drivers which we need to focus on. And some of the key pillars, the key priorities include: number one, for business of my size and for my sector, volume and cost is the fundamental. So how do I enhance my volume production capacity across my 10 large businesses? Number two, how do I control cost? Because that is something which is in my hand. Otherwise, I am totally governed and controlled by something called LME, London Metal Exchange, the way all the commodities are driven. So I have a control over the cost. So my entire team, the leadership team, they work in terms of what kind of technology can help you, the digitalization can help you in terms of bringing your cost down. Number three, I think the way you have rightly, put ESG is playing very important role, and this becomes much deeper for again sector like me, where I come from, where governance, environment and social obligations are very important. License to operate has become the basic need for us in terms of running our business. The fourth pillar, what Alpana I have seen, and in fact in last couple of years I have seen the way investment is happening and the focus of not only leadership but right from top till the bottom, all are driven towards this, which is nothing but technology and digital approach. And can you believe earlier it was only operation people, or in some of the sections we were talking about this particular thing. But today, even in enabling side, even in the support function, today as we speak, and I will share some more example as we progress. Today, I have a budget of 100 crore rupees for technology and digital in my HR. What do I do with that? How do I, utilize it seamlessly, which can help me to move from this 30 billion to 100 billion with my contribution from the people and HR side. And that's where, all the 75 locations which I have globally, 10 large businesses, how do I bring them to a single platform, single instances, and create a kind of employee experience that can, give me a kind of value for me, my employee, and for my business at large. And finally, I think it's all about people. It's all about talent pipeline. It's a very, very classic succession planning which you need to keep in mind when you have growth agenda in your mind. I have about $20 billion of investment coming up in next 18 to 20 months. And this includes 3 new businesses probably which we have seen in news. We are coming up huge with a kind of semiconductor. We are coming up in a glass and display, which will make us India a kind of Silicon Valley, and that's what our endeavor is. So with this kind of priority, how do we drive our people agenda? How do we leverage technology which can give us real value? That makes, a lot of sense for all of us to deliberate, and that's what our focus area is.
On the question of what are the business priorities, I think I'd like to first start off with what our country president, says. He has a very, insightful comment on, how to really understand business priorities. He says that the slowest pace of change is today. And, listen to this again. Slowest pace of change is today. So it's amply clear to us. He says, we all think that things are changing very rapidly, but the reality is that this pace is the slowest. As we go into the future, the pace of change is going to be even faster. So it's unimaginably faster. And I think when we discuss ChatGPT, it comes out very clearly, right, that it's going to be significantly faster than today. So in a simple way, he says that that's what we, the HR professionals, should be prepared for. That we will need to align ourselves with extremely fast, paced changing environment of business, and accordingly, extremely, fast changes in the expectations from the business, to be ready to support the business, to enable the business, whether it is deployment of talent, whether it is acquisition of talent, succession, whether it is, workforce management. In every single aspect, business is expecting HR professionals to be ready with an extremely fast-paced, changes that are happening in the corporate world overall. And then, of course, I think the other aspect that I personally feel is going to be very critical as we discuss talent, a little ahead, is technology. And I think any industry you look at, I represent, CPG, but any industry you look at, technology is playing a significant role, not only in the business side of it, but also in the enabling functions, whether it is finance, whether it is legal, whether it is HR. We are all HR professionals here. But mind you, finance is also bringing in significant change with digitization. Same is happening with legal. So any enabling function you look at. So I think technology is going to play a very important role also. And believes that that's going to be an important priority that they will expect from us. But of course, for me, the question is, as HR professionals, how do we manage, high tech with high touch? I'll reference that a little later. But that's my personal belief. There has to be a balance between high tech and high touch. I think those are the business priorities that I see.
Well, Alpna, technology has never been an option, to any organization. It's always been a necessity. And there are 2 scenarios. One is pre-COVID and post-COVID. So post-COVID, we can't even thought of not spending a day without tech. Be it our mobile phones or be it our laptops. I think post-COVID, everything is happening online. It's more of a digital world that we're living in, So it has definitely played a vital role when it comes to us and our business. Bajaj Capital is a 6 decades old organization, and we are into financial services. and in investment services, and we have been categorized as number one, national advisor to the nation, financial advisors to the nation. And we have 3 generations of clients, dealing with us. So first generation is more comfortable with RNs, going to their place, being with them, understanding their long-term, short-term needs, and then suggesting them or doing the assessment of their investments. Second generation is okay both the ways. And the third generation is only tech. They feel everything, give us a platform, give us research inputs, and we'll do it, all by ourselves. So we have been forced to live in a world which we call phygital, which is physical as well as the digital way of doing business, So this transformation was quite fast, especially post-COVID and during the COVID also. And this is the business side of it, and we've done a lot of transformation when it comes to business side of it. On people management, definitely it's played a vital role. Now remote work and flexible working has become a norm today. And if you don't have it in your organization, I don't think people would be open to come and be a part of your team. I think there are wonderful tools with which it has been possible, not only to make it possible, but also increase the efficiencies. For example, I would name one tool that we are using in our organization, which is called Desk Time. And we used it, during the COVID as well as post-COVID, we are using it. So it's tracking your productivity. And, what we do, we end up rewarding the output. But through this tool, we are also rewarding the input, the kind of right efforts that you're putting in. And every month, our team members have an opportunity to earn extra 5% salaries, because if Desk Time rates them amongst the top 100 people, so, they get additional salaries. So this is serving us 2 purposes. One is that keeping the team engaged and rewarding them for the right efforts, and also tracking their productivity. So such are the wonderful tools that we have used, especially during COVID and post-COVID. Now, another, for example, AI-based chatbot. Now we named it Lena, and it's a chat, kind of a chatbot, wherein it's sending several feedback questions to the team members. And, a team member in Trivandrum, he feels that Lena is a part of our MD's office. And every quarter, she's getting in touch with us, asking if you're okay, if you're facing any bottlenecks, challenges, what can we do to make you, And they give their feedback, wholeheartedly. And they're feeling so, wanted and important. And, so that way we've been able to, when we see that, people, their ratings are like, they've rated us 3, 2.5, 3, and they're on the verge of leaving, or they're not happy with some things, we've been taking corrective actions there and then. And so again, this is one of the tools that I would name. Then of course, HR process streamlining, through ATS, paperless onboarding. So this has actually freed up our time, which is 30-35% of operational time. And now we're able to devote this time to more strategic and meaningful tasks. I think all these things which have come up nowadays, the tools which are more collaborative, for example, all across our shared services, we have a wonderful tool, through which, we call it, it's called Notion, and I'm sure many of us would be using those. So you can actually have a look at various goals and the interdependencies that we have, and how, how quickly have we sorted out, or how quickly have we collaborated and achieve those objectives. So I think this is a wonderful world right now that we're living in. If I have to compare it 20 years back,
of course,
so I think tremendous impact on business and on people management.
I think tech has become significant across all business cycles, and more so the usage of technology in HR functions also kind of helping us, revolutionize in a way how organizations manage and engage with their employees more broadly. So of course, as some of the esteemed panelists have spoken about, streamlining processes, kind of enhanced engagement through various tech platforms, etc. To me, I think 2-3 things that really stand out is how do we kind of look at
amplifying the use of digital in the space of talent acquisition. I think the way business is evolving, the skills that are needed, and there's so many studies that kind of talk about how skills that we need today are not necessarily available at the level of expertise or experience that we need. And how do we quickly integrate the business need of different skills that don't even exist in the organization?
Yeah.
So how do we start to look at the talent acquisition process, whether it's how do you write those right job descriptions that don't necessarily exist in an organization, to creating job postings that are exciting, they talk about your EVP, and of course all of this kind of backed through algos, whether it's through how do you screen those large amount of CVs that are coming in, how do you then use maybe different platforms of video interviewing or interviewing those people, but primarily how do you look at integrating technology to attract and assess talent, and then eventually lead to an improved quality of hires while kind of delivering an improvement in time to fill vacancies kind of metric. But I think more apart from that, more specifically for within HR, I think it's high time that we as HR professional embrace the data-driven decision making. And HR tech is providing access to that robust analytics and reporting capabilities. And it's now really up to us in terms of how do we upskill ourselves and gather and analyze aspects around performance, productivity, engagement, turnover, or all the key metrics that really impact business in a big way. And from just identifying trends to eventually moving to predictive future analytics, I think is a key aspect that is probably required to be integrated in effective people management. But yeah, I think in summary, HR tech has really helped kind of revolutionize, so to say, people management by automating processes, the efficiencies that's coming in, the overall employee experience, the agility and scalability. The solutions are far more, you can kind of grow them as per the changing needs. The cloud-based systems help you kind of scale and customize far more easily. But I think the other call out is around data security and compliance. How do we get ahead of that compliance and privacy regulations? Because we operate in multiple countries. It's a bit of complex structure to be managed to ensure there is secure management of data and transmission of employee data. So I think, effectively, from transactional activities around people management to strategic partnership and empowering our people managers as well as organization to attract, engage, and in fact develop and retain talent through that personalization learning that both you and Sunena spoke about. I think various facets to technology in people only helping us kind of move forward on the business agenda and people priorities coming together effectively.
I think that's a very relevant question, and all of us saw the moment we were in the pandemic, or currently we continue to be in the VUCA world, right, which is very volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. We saw a spike in hiring with most of the companies. We need technologists, we need people with AI, ML, and bulk hiring. And then suddenly, while we are traversing through the pandemic, we see, companies laying off. And that created a lot of uncertainty in the market. People were also confused. I have just been hired a year back, and today I'm being made redundant. So is technology changing at that fast pace? And maybe we need to revisit our priorities. And that's why all businesses got together to understand, I strategized for 3 years, I strategized for 4 years, and this is the roadmap. But all of that had to be disrupted. And I think for us to today do talent acquisition in a more intelligent manner, we need to forecast better. We need to see the data trends that we've had in the past, what we need to achieve the best business outcomes in the future, and what kind of talent do we need to hire. And it necessarily doesn't have to be numbers. It has to be the right skill at the right cost. And I think initially we may have hired in bulk, but I think it's very important to revisit the talent strategy so that we don't result into too many workforce redundancies in future. So all businesses, I think it's very important, regardless of the sector, to see how much of tech talent do you need, how much of services do you need, or what kind of functional skills do you need. And also, I think we need to be very ready to accept that our educational curriculum has still not picked up at that faster pace. So when we are hiring those tech grads, or if we are hiring technology talent, they're not able to meet the demands that the business is expecting them to. And if you're waiting for 100 on 100 score, that's not going to happen. You need to look at scope for interventions of learning and development when they come into the organization. I think that's where a lot of organizations lack at this point in time. They interview, they'll have the right tech panels, they'll have the right assessments that they will run, but actually when the talent comes to them, they realize it's very mediocre. Yes, it is going to be that way because pandemic, most of the classes have been virtual. Curriculums have not been revisited at the same pace at what corporates are revisiting their job descriptions. So that's one very important thing. So we need to keep pace with the changing skill and competency shift that's happening in the market overall. Apart from that, one very important thing that we need to look at while building our talent pipeline is, are we giving equal opportunity to everybody? Because not everybody is well versed with, I could belong from I could have a disability which stops me from giving a good virtual interview. It may work better for a person with locomotive disability, but I may not be very comfortable in front of the camera. So what kind of technology do you invest in so that everybody gets that level playing field that we've been talking about? Also, people from the underrepresented sections of the society, how do you hire them? How do you build them into your talent pipeline? Not just numbers, but genuinely reaching the masses. And that is not going to happen if I continue to go to my tier 1 institutes that I have always been going for hiring, or just certain set of technology companies which I think I can find talent. I need to leverage technology to be able to go to tier 2, tier 3, or even tier 4 cities, and we need to get away with this thing of, having what educational background you have and what colleges you come from, because then we are limiting our talent pool. So it's very important again to kind of broaden our horizons and look for talent elsewhere and apart from where we've been looking. And of course, sourcing strategies have to be very, very robust. We need to ensure that we have the right sourcing strategy and we source from anywhere and everywhere possible, and not just the portals and not just, the LinkedIns. We need to leverage a little more of social media. We need to also touch the masses, which are probably still underrepresented, but may have the right skill and may be able to perform if they are able to go ahead. And one last thing that I would like to conclude on this point is also talent mobility and internal development that needs to happen internally. I think a lot of companies sometimes forget that while we continue to hire externally, what about your internal talent? Are you also addressing the skill gaps that they have? Are you possibly building a talent pipeline internally which can meet the demand of the future? And maybe open up something like gig projects, give them those gigs to work on, let them go back, to the roles that they've been doing, or even open up certain gigs externally and say, do you need contract staff to meet the demand for now? And then let them go once the contract is over, rather than, getting into redundancies in the future, which have a long-term impact.
I'm going to actually make it a little more specific, when it comes to, talent attraction, talent acquisition. See, we are a technology company and we've seen exponential growth in last few years, just like many other in the industry. And that's always a good problem to solve. I think, again, relying on technology, for example, we have something called, a CRM, which is a candidate relationship management, where all the candidates from all sources basically become part of this one pool, and you can leverage that database whenever it's a short timeline or urgency of a requirement to be fulfilled. You can leverage that, and that basically comes in really handy. I mean, at least our experience with the existing database has been quite positive. The other one is, again, while it's a traditional source, but when infused with technology, that has really helped us, which is again a referral program. You have the audience earmarked already, where, and they are listening to you, by the way. And things like, a good referral tool, which is, the ease of applying is there. They can check the status on the phone. The bonus can be paid out like really, really quickly. So it's quite agile and reliable. Those are the two really help in terms of sourcing. When it comes to later stages, because you have to fill in some requirements like really quickly, other tools again, technology again comes to your rescue, which is a scheduling or an interview feedback tool. A lot of us actually in a lot of companies still actually follow the same regular practice of getting the interviews done using emails basically to pass on and exchange feedback. If we were to have a tool, all of this is just scheduling, which is, a hiring manager or an interviewer is basically checking the slot available and scheduling, self-scheduling, the interview, as well as passing on the feedback to the TA team. They don't really need to follow up with each other or exchange mails. They can just basically click on a button, which is again available on the phone, and the result is declared, in a quick time. So right from sourcing to scheduling, interviewing, all through the different stages, I think it's the technology when infused with our regular traditional sources or the experience that all of us have had, I think just helps us, with the quick fulfillment of some of those, requirements. And I think the last one here is earmarking high priority. While our because all of us are actually part of the HR team here, from talent acquisition standpoint, what one will be told is that everything is priority, but it's very important to seek clarity, ask for which positions need to be prioritized first, and some which can be dealt with later. And what Kriti said, and what I've heard already, is that internal actually should be first, and then actually it's external and various sources through external. I think that's something which has worked for us.